This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're continuing our Ultrabook Smackdown comparisons, looking at the Dell XPS 13 on the left and the HP Folio 13 on the right. Both are 13-inch Ultrabooks, which means they have Intel inside, thin and light designs, and they have SSD drives. So what's the difference? We're going to take a look now. The XPS on the left, the base model, sells for $9.99 currently. It just came out. It's about a month, 2 months newer than the Folio on the right. The Folio sells for about $9.49 in stores for the pre-configured quick ship model, and if you order it from HP's website online, currently they're selling it for $8.99, so a little bit difference in price, but not enough that we'd say it's worth making your buying decision based on $50 or $100, honestly. You can see that the Dell has a little bit smaller footprint because they work real hard on getting the chassis as small as possible, so it's actually the smallest of the 13.3-inch Ultrabooks on the market. HP, on the other hand, with the Folio, well, they and Toshiba did not go for an excess of style or anything like that. It's thicker than the average Ultrabook, though still much thinner than other notebooks available on the market right now. And you can see just right here, a little bit of difference in thickness. The overall package is thicker on the HP. And the design changes continue with the edge-to-edge Gorilla Glass here on the Dell XPS 13. A nice touch in terms of durability and look. I know everybody loves that edge-to-edge glass. It might crank up glare a little bit more, but, well, what can you do? The HP has a very thin bezel, but as we noted in our video review of the Folio 13, there's still a black border on the LCD, which negates the effect somewhat. We're not really sure about that. I think HP just did that so they could say, well, we got a really skinny bezel here, but they're still using a panel that doesn't actually come out to the edges anyway. Both have very good keyboards and both are backlit. The Dell has a more even kind of individual LED backlight, whereas the backlight on the HP oozes out from around the edges of the keys as well as illuminating the characters on the keys. But both are easy to see in the dark, not too bright, not too glaring, and a nice gentle white. And they have controls on the keyboards for each unit so you can turn the backlight on and off. Dell actually has an ambient light sensor that can control keyboard brightness and display brightness. So we found that it controlled display brightness more so than keyboard brightness. Right now the Folio is available in only one version. That's funny, most Ultrabooks come with ULV, that's ultra low voltage Intel Core i5 CPUs, and there's a Core i7 step-up model. With the Folio right now you just get the i5 running at 1.6 gigahertz, which is the same CPU used in the Dell XPS 13. And pretty much in most every Ultrabook that's available on the market right now. They both have 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM that's soldered on the motherboard and SSD drives. Both are 128 gigs for the base model. Again, HP doesn't offer any up configurations there, so right now you can't get a higher capacity SSD drive. Kind of weird. Dell pulls ahead with the drive that they use. They're using the latest Samsung PM830, which is a SATA 3 SSD drive. That's the fastest kind of interface you can get right now for a hard drive, and the benchmark numbers show quite a difference. In fact, you'll see twice the speed on the Dell versus the HP in the disk tests in PC Mark Vantage. About 20,000 versus 40,000 for the score there. Overall on benchmarks, of course the Dell is bolstered by that faster SSD drive, but Dell scores closer to 10,000, whereas the HP is trying to get up to 9,000, so the Dell is a bit faster in terms of synthetic benchmarks. In terms of day-to-day use, also the Dell feels a little bit faster, but the difference isn't huge. It's not going to really change your world miraculously, going up to the Dell in terms of speed improvements. In terms of heat and fan noise, well, the HP has a plastic bottom, so it doesn't get too terribly hot to the touch the way metal bottoms do. And it runs fairly cool. Looking at it with CPU temperature monitoring utilities, it stays around 45 degrees centigrade most of the time. The Dell stays cool with its carbon fiber bottom. That's nice, and we're going to take a look around at materials in a minute so you can see that up close. And the CPU tends to run closer to 50 degrees centigrade. And here's the funny thing, you've probably been noticing the fan whining in the background. That's actually the HP Folio 13. Some folks have complained about the Dell XPS 13 having a loud fan, but Dell quickly released a BIOS update that took care of that, and it's actually rather quiet. Both machines will run a little bit more loudly the first couple of days as Windows indexes files and stuff like that, but we've had them both about the same amount of time, and the Dell is pretty quiet now. The HP just likes to go whirr pretty much all the time. That said, it doesn't really impact battery life, and the Folio has good battery life. HP claims 9.25 hours versus 8 for the Dell for their claim time, and You know, manufacturers always claim more than you're actually going to see, but the Folio does manage to run a good 7 hours on a charge versus 6 hours on average for us with the Dell. Now we're taking a look at the lid of both models, as you can see, and this is probably the HP's most attractive viewing angle. You've got a brushed aluminum lid here, a hint of champagne coloring, and the Dell has its smooth aluminum lid, very lozenge shaped, rounded on the corners, a bit like the MacBook Air. Obviously the Dell has a smaller footprint. If we put them on top of each other, you can see that. Not a huge difference there, but you know, every little bit counts if you're looking for a ultra portable. From the side view, you can see, well, the Dell has a taper, so it's thinner in the front. And most style-oriented Ultrabooks, well, they do the taper thing to give them some style and make them look thinner. HP goes with the same thickness all around, kind of like your average notebook, and it is thicker, and the black plastic runs around to the bottom side here. And there's our side view. So clearly Dell is going for the style thing, which a lot of Ultrabook manufacturers are, because they are competing with the MacBook Air. The ASUS ZenBook is certainly high styling. This guy is absolutely gorgeous looking. HP, not as much. Now looking at the undersides, we have nice soft touch plastic here. Most Ultrabooks are metal on the bottom, but HP went with plastic. And other than from a cosmetics and vanity perspective, we won't complain too much because it does stay cooler than metal and it is easier to grip on without dropping. Now the Dell has that carbon fiber bottom, really cool, very unique construction element there. Literally it does stay cool, looks nice, is durable, and kind of again sets this tone for some serious style going on here. Both of these have bottoms that can be removed. You can see a whole lot of screws on the HP here. This will keep you quite busy if you want to take this guy apart. And we've got screws on the Dell, not quite so many, and just laid out around the edges where you can find them a bit more easily. But really there's not a whole lot to upgrade in Ultrabooks. The memory is soldered on the motherboard. You can upgrade the SSD drive if you wish to do so, and you can access the wireless card in both of these too if you want to swap them. And HP goes for a more traditional look. You've got the usual print with model number information, a million certifications, you've got your product tags right here, and Dell hides them nicely under this neat little lift-up aluminum lid here to try to keep the look pretty. Now we've seen manufacturers of Ultrabooks that are design conscious try to hide them, like the ASUS ZenBook UX31 actually puts the product tags on the charger. Go figure. It's interesting what happens if you swap your charger, your product tag kind of changes. But anyway, you know, manufacturers are trying to make them look prettier and not show as much icky-ick. And in the case of HP, well, they let all hang loose. Now as we continue our look inside, cosmetically mostly speaking, you can see we've got that kind of signature Dell XPS black surface here. It looks really cool, and this is magnesium alloy here. Again, every surface is pretty much premium on the Dell, and it's got some soft touch paint on it. Dell also uses a buttonless trackpad here, and when the machine first came out, well, the trackpad drivers were not so great, but we've gotten some beta drivers direct from the folks at Dell, and I can tell you there's definite hope. With the new drivers, awesome trackpads, so I would put them basically on par with each other in terms of trackpad usability and multi-touch functionality. And the Folio, as far as I can tell, this is aluminum as well here on the deck, and this has a very, well, mostly HP Pavilion kind of look, which isn't a bad thing. You've got this slightly sunken keyboard, large trackpad, it's HP's usual buttonless trackpad, and you've got an on-off there to deal with palm rejection issues. The HP has a little bit more flex on the keyboard deck, but really just about nothing. It's not like the NV15 folks, which was a trampoline. And both are very good keyboards. I like the Dell's larger sculpted keys, a little bit more travel, but honestly, if you're a writer, both of these are quite good, and they're better than the ZenBook or the Toshiba Portage Z835 when it comes to typing by far. Now here's an important one, display quality. After all, that's what you interact with more than anything else other than perhaps the keyboard at times. Both of these have 1366 by 768 displays. That's kind of your basic standard Ultrabook resolution. I don't have an issue with it. It's pretty easy on the eyes. Good match for the display size. There is not a higher resolution option for either. Both of these use LED backlit TN panels. There is no IPS option. With HP, they would love you to upgrade to the NV14 Spectre if you want something that's ultrabooky with an IPS display. Likewise with Dell, they have the 14Z and the 15Z if you want to get into nicer quality displays. But that said, the Dell display is much brighter. Right now, you can see we got the same picture running on both, and the Dell is set at 50% brightness, whereas the Folio is set at 100% brightness. Now the Folio's brightness is adequate for indoor use if you don't have a super brightly lit office, but if you can take it out to a coffee shop, a sunny place, it does not have really enough brightness to combat and fight the glare issue when you're in good lighting, whereas the Dell is very bright. It's one of the brighter Ultrabook displays on the market. Viewing angles for both are okay, not super great. Again, these are not IPS displays. In contrast, I give a slight edge to the HP. It has maybe a hair more contrast, but they're pretty close. So mostly the Dell wins for having edge-to-edge Gorilla Glass and having a much brighter display. Now again, in terms of performance, the Dell XPS 13 benchmarks faster, feels a little bit faster, but we're not talking a wild difference here, so we're not going to show you how Word and Photoshop run on each of these because it's relatively similar. That's not a big deciding factor here. If you need more storage, however, the Dell is obviously the better choice because you can get a 256 gig SSD drive, and if you need faster storage, it's also quite nice. When it comes to build quality, fit and finish, the Dell is put together with extreme care. Great materials, not a single seam out of place, really good. And I have to say this Folio is also put together well. All the seams align up well, there are no problems, we didn't have any dead pixels. I know HP's been taking some flack lately for build quality, and I've actually mostly noticed the problems with the Envy line, which is their really high-end line, so that's funny. I think that would get the most attention to detail. But no problems with lid warp or anything like we had in our Envy 14 Spectre. Well put together. With the Dell, you get a year of premium support. That means they will actually come to your house and fix the notebook if you have a problem that can't be fixed via remote access. You get their higher line support folks on the phone, speak great English, very nice and helpful. I actually spoke with them, so you get a little more mollycoddling with the Dell product. Now HP pulls ahead a little bit when it comes to ports. You can see you have a full Ethernet jack here, isn't that awesome? And a full-size HDMI port also. That's your power right there. And you've got a USB port and an SD card slot. Dell, on this side, we've got our high-speed USB 3.0 port and a mini display port. It doesn't do HDMI. Now you can get a dongle adapter, as we pointed out in our XPS 13 review. For about $10 that will adapt your mini display port to an HDMI port or whatever it is that you actually need, VGA, you name it. So I actually prefer the display port for its versatility and its ability to drive really large monitors and mate with different interfaces like DVI and all that kind of thing if you need. But then again, a lot of folks just really want to connect their notebook to a TV or an HDMI monitor, and HP has it for convenience there. You just got that port right there built in, no dongles needed. Now looking around on the other side, that's your power port here for the Dell. This is your USB port and your combo mic headphone jack, and on this side we have the HP's other USB port. It has one USB 3.0, one USB 2.0, just like the Dell, and here's your combo mic headphone jack. So you get built-in Ethernet with the HP, which can be very important to business users. You've got to use a USB dongle with the Dell. And again, we've outlined the differences between the kind of display port that's included. Both of these notebooks have Intel HD 3000 graphics. That's standard for the Ultrabook design. And right now, given the size of the motherboards and heat dissipation issues, you're not going to get dedicated graphics on either of these machines or on any other Ultrabook right now. So for serious 3D gaming with Battlefield 3, well, unless you really want to go with really low resolution and don't mind some low FIPS and low quality settings, these are not really meant for gaming. You can do some video editing on these with 4 gigs of RAM and no GPU to help you out, though. You know, it's not going to be as excellent a solution as a bigger laptop with a faster CPU and dedicated graphics and more RAM. That said, I have edited 10-minute 1080p videos and exported them as 1080p for YouTube, and it takes about a half an hour for the export. Actually, working with the footage and editing is pretty quick on both of these. A few more fine points. Both have webcams and integrated mics. The Dell actually uses the webcam for facial recognition and logon, and it works better than most notebooks we've used. It's really pretty cool, so I like that feature a lot. When it comes to wireless, the Dell has Intel WiDi wireless display, so you can use it with Netgear, Push-a-TV, or one of those adapters. You plug it into your HDMI port on your TV or your AV receiver, and you can wirelessly send your picture, your video, whatever it is you're doing, onto your TV or use your TV. It's basically a second monitor, no wires attached. HP gets a little bit stickier. Now on their webpage they say that they have Intel wireless, which is a requirement for using WiDi, but in fact this model here, the 1020 US, which is their quick ship model and is also available in stores, has Broadcom Wi-Fi, so there is no WiDi on that. Now if you order one directly from them, maybe you can get it with Intel Wi-Fi and then get WiDi, but just talking about the one that's available in stores and as the fast ship model on HP's website right now. In terms of software, Dell has done a pretty good job of keeping the machine clean. Their XPSs, I haven't been getting too bloaty lately. Both have antivirus on them, antivirus trials. HP goes with Norton, Dell goes with McAfee. You can remove those and install whatever you like if you prefer. And HP kind of bloats things up. Most of the things on there are web shortcuts, and we cover that in depth in our video review, but I'd like to see a bit less bloat on something that has a small SSD drive. We only have about 65 gigs available out of our 128 gig SSD because the restore partition takes up space, some of the built-in hibernate partition takes up space, and that's used for Intel's rapid resume features, so that you can just open up the lid and come out of hibernate within like 8 seconds or so. But beyond that, we've run the MS Office 2010 Starter Edition install, so that took up a little bit of space. Other than that, we really haven't put much on there, and you're down to 65 gigs already. Dell stays a little bit cleaner. You get about 10 gigs more free out of the box. When it comes to audio, both of these are above average for Ultrabooks with pretty loud speakers. The HP goes with Dolby Audio, not Beats. Beats is pretty much something they use for their NV line, but you're not going to see it as much in something like business class Folio. And the XPS has pretty good sounding audio too, with really nice separation. Now the Dell XPS fires from somewhere around here. That's what it sounds like anyway, and you've got stereo speakers there. And we've got this little vented grill here for the speakers to fire out on the HP. So both are pretty good choices when it comes to volume and audio quality. At least for a 13-inch size notebook, you know, you're not going to get mega booming bass and stuff like that out of products that are this small. So that's the Dell XPS 13 versus HP Folio 13 Ultrabook. Now, aside from the fact I know some of you are big-time Dell fans or big-time HP fans and you like to keep with the brand that you enjoy, if you're open-minded and looking at either one, I can tell you that the HP Folio gets points for a long battery life. It lasts up to an hour longer than the Dell and an hour longer than most Ultrabooks on the market. And it has a built-in Ethernet port, which is handy for you business users. And there's the full-size HDMI port for those of you who care less about driving a diverse array of display peripherals like the Dell supports. The Dell, however, I feel brings more to the table. They both have very good keyboards for typing, but the Dell, well, it wins. It has an even better keyboard. It has an edge-to-edge Gorilla Glass display, and you can see here the colors are a bit richer, and it's about twice as bright as the HP. And then there's a materials aspect of the whole thing. This is all premium materials. This goes with the whole Ultrabook philosophy of something that's going to compete with the MacBook Air, whereas HP, I don't know, they were just trying to be a little understated and boring there with materials. But it's not just about the design. Okay, we all like to have something that looks pretty, and looks do count in terms of pride in our consumer electronics. There's a durability issue. Here you've got aluminum on the lid, Gorilla Glass, carbon fiber, magnesium alloy, and here we've got aluminum. Not too much flex on the lid though, but there's some flex on the lid, a little aluminum on the deck, and then plastic on the bottom. The Dell feels more like, well, a deadly weapon. You know, you could whack somebody with it, you'd probably hurt them. I wouldn't probably hit somebody with the Folio because it might lose. Again, if you're interested in these machines, be sure to watch our full video reviews, and you can read our written reviews to learn more about each in depth. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. This is the Dell XPS 13 and the HP Folio 13 Comparison Smackdown. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.